Is the threat of cyber warfare a real-life hoax? Well, Ryan Singal is a staff writer for Wired.com who recently wrote an article claiming U.S. accusations of cyber threats from international culprits are really just an excuse to take away internet freedoms. He joins me now live from San Francisco. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. So you say that the biggest threat to an open internet is former Director of National Intelligence Michael McConnell. Why?
Well, it was a bit of an overstatement, but I was trying to make a point about how we talk about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a real problem. There are hackers out there. There's people trying to steal your email, your PayPal, logins. They're trying to steal your bank account. We do have Chinese hackers trying to get at information of human rights activists. Those things are real, and we need to deal with them. But what we don't need to be doing is doing what Booz Allen Hamilton, Vice President, Michael McConnell did last week, both in front of the Senate and in the pages of the Washington Post, which is calling these things a cyber war and calling for the equivalence of ICBMs and saying that we need to re-engineer the internet. And that kind of rhetoric is really dangerous.
So, Ryan, why is the federal government then following Michael McConnell's lead and, spreading fear about cyber terrorism, I guess you could say? I mean, what is the Obama administration's take on all of this?
Well, it's funny you ask. They do take cybersecurity seriously, but today I actually met with Howard Schmidt, who's the new sort of White House cyber czar, and he explicitly told me that cyber warfare doesn't exist. There is no such thing as cyber war. He doesn't believe in it. He thinks that's a dangerous way to talk. So what we're seeing is we've got these kind of battles going on between kind of internal people who have a vested interest in the metaphor. So, for instance, Michael McConnell, who likes to talk about cyber war and have these things be sort of, scary, but, sort of like scary and sexy, but there's big money in that, right? He works for a company that makes $4 billion a year in government contracts, and a lot of that comes from these sort of secretive contracts. And we're seeing a lot of those contracts go into the hands of the National Security Agency, and that's dangerous.
So, Ryan, how can McConnell influence what's going on? I mean, what power does he really have? I know that you wrote in an article that he kind of wants to reinvent the internet. How does he plan to do that, and what does that mean for us who use the internet every day?
Well, I mean, this is a big public policy battle. So there's currently legislation in front of the Senate right now to decide kind of like the Cybersecurity Act of 2009. Most of that's just kind of basic stuff, like let's train more people to be cybersecurity experts. But there's also provisions there to give more power to the government, emergency powers to the president in case, there's some sort of major cybersecurity attack. So that really what's kind of going on is an attempt to kind of frame the issues. And there's a big power battle on whether or not the Homeland Security or the NSA controls cybersecurity for the government. And while that might seem weird, the battle there is that Homeland Security is a civilian agency where the NSA is part of the military. And so there's a big battle on whether who gets control here. Is it the civilian side or the military side? And it's dangerous that the military side gets too much power.
Okay, really quickly, Ryan, many people, not just Michael McConnell, believe that cyber terrorism is a real threat and that the United States would be stupid not to prepare for it. I mean, isn't that true?
It is true, but we also, at the same hearing McConnell was talking about cyber war, there's a guy, Jim Lewis, who I often think overblows security threats. He's from the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Not a kind of a pansy liberal. And he said at that thing that what we need to be talking about here is cyber espionage and cyber crime. Those are really the big things that happen on the internet. Cyber terrorism, there's really not much a cyber terrorist can do. It's not going to be simple for him a cyber terrorist to take down, the utility grid, the electrical grid. Those kind of vulnerabilities just really don't exist. So what we're talking about here is protecting government systems from, spies from China, spies from Russia, and then protecting our economy from people that want to bleed us dry. And that's the kind of thing we need to be worried about, rather than, ginning up fears of Al-Qaeda, plunging the U.S. into darkness and destroying our economy by taking down the electrical grid.
Well, Ryan Singal from Wired.com, thank you so much for joining us, weighing in on whether or not cyber terrorism is a real threat.